Alright, welcome back. Today's video is going to be how to do visual effects or VFX for the combat. So you'll notice that so far all we just have is a sort of just a raw combat. Which if you just play the game right now, you see that it's just really bare bones right now. There's nothing impactful in the combat. So in this video, I'm going to focus on how to make visual effects for when you hit things, and for blocking and things like that. So, the first thing we want to do is make a local script in here called ClientEffects, which the reason we want to make this in starter player is because we don't want this local script to refresh every single time the player dies. Because if we were to put this in starter character scripts, this ClientEffects script would refresh or reset every time the player respawns. So we'll keep this in starter player scripts. Let's just call this ClientEffects for the comment, and we're gonna make a remote event in here called ClientEffects, like so. Now, I know a lot of other videos that show you how to do effects on the server, which what I mean by that is, let's open up our default hit effect. They tell you, okay, if we want like a particle, we just clone a particle, like particle clone, like so, and we emit, or like clone emit, like so. But this is actually really bad practice, because the server doesn't like having a lot of strain put on it. So anything that's not going to be necessary on the server, we should always do it on the client. For example, particles or visual effects. So let's say for our default, which this is just a raw, you just hit the character or you hit the target and they get pushed back. So we can say replicated storage or remotes, like ClientEffects, FireAllClients, like so. And then after that, we can go over here and we can actually listen for the FireClient event. So let's go over here, we get the ClientEffects, and then we can say remotes.ClientEffects on ClientEvent connect function. So you'll see any argument that you put in here will correspond to the arguments in here. Now, there's two different FireClients, right? You have FireAllClients and you have replicated storage.client FireClient, which is just a single specific client. So you see that there's automatically an argument here called player. So in this case, you want to reference to the client you want to fire to. Let's just say attacker. And then after that, any variable following this would correspond to this. So let's say action, comma, argument data. That's going to be a table and we can call this a string. Let's press enter. So this argument, the attacker argument, doesn't correspond to any of these. It's already implied. But if we say blah 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 and whatever table we want, these two arguments are going to correspond to the action and argument data. So I just want to make that a note for you. But in this case, we're going to do FireAllClients, which doesn't need the player argument inside of it, because you're firing every single client for the player in the game. So we can say, for the action, we want it to be default hit effect. So default hit. And then we want to add some arguments in here. So we want the client to know who exactly we're hitting. So we can say target is equal to target hit. So, oops. Target hit. And then if we want a sort of like unique default hit effect, we can also use the weapon use string, like so. Now in here, we have to actually acknowledge these arguments. So we can say if action equals default hit, which is this, then we can get the argument data, which is the target, weapon use, and anything else you put in here. But so let's keep it like that. And then we'll just do it accordingly. However, I want to note that, let's say you have a lot of client effects. You don't want to keep on duplicating it like this and just fill up your script with thousands of lines. So this is where modules comes into play. So like we've been doing previously, like caching the modules, we're going to do the same for here. So let's go over here to modules and let's make a folder called client. And then we can also, because this is only be accessed by the client, this is going to be sort of like an organization type of purpose. We can say effects, or we can just remove this and say client effects, like so. I'm going to do it this way so we don't have a lot of nested folders. And then we're going to make a module script called default hit. Okay, and then we want to say return function in our arguments. So let's just say argument data any. There we go. Now we can go to our client effects and we can cache these. Now, I also want to note once again that the reason we're doing it for starter player scripts in relation to the modules. If we do it in starter character, it's going to refresh and it's going to recache all of these effects, and we don't want that. So we only want it to cache it once and then do the effects accordingly. So we can say local cached effects, like so. And then we can require all these modules. So we can say local modules. And then after that, we can go for underscore comma module and modules.clientEffects, get children do. If it's a ModuleScript, then cached effects module.name equals require module. Now, we can say if cached effects or local found effect, cached effects action. And if we found the effect, then we want to just run the function, like so. So we can say found effect, open parentheses, and it just auto fills it in for you. Because it's a function, we're returning a function. Let's just comment this called default hit. And we can say argument data, because that's the type of data that we're looking for. Now, I have linked in the description all of the resources you need, including sounds, things like that. So I already put sounds into my replicated storage that assets.sounds like that. But y'all can organize it however you want. But now you have the effects right here. Now we can go over here to this, paste inside. And then, or no, let's just go over here and go to assets and say effects, like so. And let's name this the core effects. Because the core effects is going to contain like all of the effects that we should have, like hit effect, BlockBreak, and things like that. So, remember that we have the arguments for target and weapon used. So we can say local target equals argument data target. Local weapon used equals argument data dot weapon used. So we can say if target and weapon used, then. So we want to parent these attachments to the humanoid root part. So we can say local root part equals target find for child humanoid root part. If root part, then we'll clone this. So let's get the variables in here. Initiate the variables. Local assets. And then we can say local effects equals assets.effects. And now we can clone these attachments. So local clone equals effects.coreEffects.hit effect clone. Clone.parent equals root part. Now let's say if we want to add like a different type of hit effect. We can say if weapon used equals katana, also weapon used equals fist, then we can clone a hit effect accordingly. For now, we're just going to use the normal hit effect. Then once we parent it, we can emit the effects inside. So for underscore comma effect, or let's just do v and clone get descendants to, V is a particle emitter, then V emits. And you see that V emit is a method of particle emitter, so it just emits all of the particles inside based on a certain count. So in here I have an attribute called emit count, which we can say V get attributes, V get attribute emit count, like so. And it's gonna emit based on the number in each. And there's also, I also have something called EmitDelay. So we can say if V get attribute EmitDelay is greater than 0, then test.delay V get attribute delay. And then after that we can say emit. Otherwise we can just emit it normally. Now for debris service, because we want to actually remove the effects after a certain amount of time. So we can say debris, make sure you're outside of the loop, and we can say debris, add item, clone, comma, let's say 1.5 seconds. Give it a little bit of time for it to emit. And that should be good for our default hit. So if we play the game, and we punch, we have nothing yet, but if we punch hit dummy, you see that the effects are emitting, like so. And because we haven't added any effects for the block yet, it doesn't work. But you see that this is the normal hit effect, but if he's blocking, there's no effect yet. But now we also want to add sounds. So let's make another module called sound. So now in here we can get rid of these, and we can go back to here and FireAllClients again. But in this case we want to call this sound as it corresponds to this client effect here. And then we can say sound name is equal to the hit sound. So if we go to sounds, like that, we can open this right here and we can say, let's say fist dot hit dot and whatever the combo string is. So we need to actually go over here to fist, and we need to pass in the combo string. So we want to say true string number, like so. And if we go to default, we can add in the combo string number. So combo string number, let's just call that a number. Now we can say dot toString combo string number, and we want to parent it to the target hit dot humanoid group part. So now that will play sounds, but we need to actually reference the sounds in the module. So the fist.hit is, we're going to use the same type of thing we did for the animations when we loaded them, which is this. So we can just go over here, and then we can just copy that type of line of code, and then we can go to sound, and we want sound name local parent equals argument data.parent. Now if sound name and parent, then let's make that should be a string, and this should be a base parts, or it's fine, we'll just keep that empty because we don't know what it's going to be. But what is the base part question mark, because we don't know if it's actually going to be a base part. And then we can say local found sound equals no, or we don't even need to do that. Let's cache all of these sounds in first. So local cached sounds, like so. And then for underscore comma sound in assets.sounds get descendants to. And we can do this. If sound is a sound, then local full name, sound get full name, and then cache sounds sound.name equals sound, like so. Equals cache sound, sound name. If found sound, then local clone, found sound clone. Clone.parent equals the parent, we can say clone play. And then we can say task.delay, found sound.timelength, because we want to remove after a certain amount. Or we can just say, yeah, this will be fine. We can do task.delay, or we can do debris add item. But I'm just gonna do task.delay for now. So clone destroy, like so. And now we can get out of this script, close out of this, go back to default. So now we should have a fist sound. So we play the game, we walk up and we hit him. It's weird, there's no sound. Okay. Let's see. Let's go over here to our sound. And let's do print sound name, comma parent. Let's see. Whoops. And we need to change this to full name instead of sound.name. And now if we play, we have sounds, as you can see, like so. And then now we want to add a squing sound. So I have a bunch of squing sounds that I have for y'all. And similarly, we can go to default and just clone this line of code and say fist.squings, like that. Or let's not do this, because this is in the default function, which means you already hit the target. So we want to go to fist, and we want to go to when the hitbox starts, like so. So fist.squings dot toString squing number true squing number. You want to parent it to the character.humanoid root part. Now if we play the game, you see that. Here's swing sounds. Like so. Let's remove the prints now since we debugged that. I can remove it. And that's going to be it for the default effect. Or the visual effects at least. Now we want to actually do the knockback. So we're going to use something called body velocity. So local knockback velocity, body velocity, knockback velocity.max force equals 484,0,484. So the reason we do this and we set everything else 44 but the y 0 is because we don't want the knockback to be affecting how the character moves in the air. We just want it to knock them back, not up or not anything like that. And now we'll set the velocity equals character, dot attacker dot humanoid root part. That's cframe dot look vector times let's say 10, or let's do 5 or 6. And we want to parent it. Character equals target hits dot humanoid root part, like so. And we want to add debris, so it removes the knockback after a certain amount of time. Knockback, comma 0.3, like so. And we want to make sure that all these dummies are unanchored as well. So we want the humanoid root part to be unanchored, like so. Now if we play the game, we'll see that they get knocked back. Okay, let's make this knockback a little bit more intense. So let's say times 10, and we'll say 2, like so. Or we can say 13. And then we can also, since we knocked the target back, we want to push the player forward a little bit too, to make it smoother. So we'll go over here, and we'll say pool velocity, like so. And we want to make this around 10. And we want to parent it to the actual character, or the attacker's humanoid root part, like so. Now if we play the game. So he gets pushed back. I'm gonna give him infinite health for now, so we don't need to worry about him dying on us. So we just say max health 999 all the way, and then we can say health all the way to 999 as well. So, alright, and then let's go ahead and make this duration a bit shorter, and that should be good. Let's make this around 11 or 12 and 8, 9. Let's say that this is going to be our last hit, which is our block break in this case. So we can say, add another variable here called LastHit boolean. There's going to be a boolean value. We can go to fist, and we can say swing or constant. Where is it? Our true swing number. True swing number equals 5 and true or false. So if it's the last hit, then we do true, otherwise it's going to be false. Now we go to default. We can say if last hit, then else. So if it's the last hit, then we want to do a really far knockback, otherwise we do the normal velocity. So let's go over here and we'll say make this like 40, like so. And then now if you play the game, so that he gets knocked back far on the last hit. Let's make him knock back a little bit further, so we can go to default and make it like 60 instead. And if we play the game, you will see that he gets knocked back even further. Like so. Now, we've officially finished with the defaults hit type finally, so we can get out of that script. And then we can go to our block. Now, let's just copy and paste all of the things that we want here. So we want these things right here, the sound, and yeah. So we can say that. And we also want the combo string number in here too. Let's go ahead and copy this. Let's add these all back into here, like so. And then, now we can go right here and we can say fist.blocked, like so. .blocked dot combo string number, so that's fine. And we can say block effect, like so. So we can duplicate the default hit and change this to blocked. Then over here, we can just clone the blocked, like so. And that's gonna be it for the block hit type. So a common thing you'll notice when you're scripting these sort of client effect things is that it's really sort of just value changing to an extent. Because you see here, we just only need to change one thing, and that constitutes the whole visual portion of the block effect. Same with default hit. So yeah, I just wanted y'all to note that. And then we want to also change this to block effect, so we can match it up with the actual action. And if we play the game, we should have a block. Oh, let's see what happened here. A vegan attribute, EmitDelay. Ah, I see. Okay. A vegan attribute, EmitDelay, and greater than 0, then. So if the EmitDelay is there, then we check if it's greater than 0. Otherwise, we do nothing. So let's do the same thing for the default hit, so it doesn't error as well. Here we go. Now, you see we have the hit effects, or the block effects. Now we also want to do the block sounds. So we'll see that blocked, and we have these sounds right here, like so. So we want fist.block.combo string number. Okay, I see. So we want to randomize these instead of just doing the combo string number. So we can say local random number f.random 1, 4, because that's the amount here. And then we can just say toString random number. So that should be good. toString random number. And I'm going to target it to that. There we go. That works. So we have the sound. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then now that's done, we want to do the actual BlockBreak effect. So let's go ahead and clone this again, and we can call this BlockBreak. And then let's go into our hit effects, and we can say we can duplicate or copy and paste these effects here, and then go over here to BlockBreak. So we want to have a sound in here, and it should be called just BlockBreak. And then parent it to target hit, and BlockBreak like so. Now we can go to our visual effect. And I have an effect in here for the BlockBreak called Dizzy Effect. So let's clone this in here. Now in this case, it's not a value changing, we're actually scripting something new. So we'll local clone effects.dizzyEffect clone up parent equals the target, and then we want to weld this, so we can say local weld part O. We want to weld the target's head to this part. Weld.parent equals clone, like so. Let's make this all work before we actually clone the Dizzy effect. Now that the weld works, we can have a duration on it. So here we can say local duration number, argument data.duration. We need to go over here and also add duration in here too. Oh wait, we just changed this. Okay. We'll just rename this a BlockBreak, and we'll name this a block effect. It's fine. There we go. Now we want to add a duration value in here. So duration is equal to 1.5. Like so. Because we want it to match with this duration that we already listed. Now we can say toss.delay duration, function. And we want to make it smoothly transition out. So instead of destroying it, we want to actually disable the effects. So in clone get children do, or get descendants, if effect is a particle emitter, then effect.enable equals false, like so. And then we want to destroy it after maybe like 1.5 seconds. Give it a little bit of time for it to fade out. So now if we play the game, you'll see that we have our block effect, or BlockBreak effect, like so. And it fades away smoothly too. And then also we want to clone, after we finish the Dizzy effect, we want to clone the actual BlockBreak effect now. So we can go over here, and we can go to default hit and just clone this, or copy and paste this part. So we can go in here and we can make this a different thread, and there we go. And we can change this to BlockBreak. Now, if we play the game, we should have a combination of the Dizzy effect and the BlockBreak effect. Like so. and now you see him auto blocking after he finished the combo. And yeah, that's it for that. And if we go over here to just a normal hit dummy, we'll see just a normal hit effect. So yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it for this episode. So just a brief wrap up. What we did today was we created a ClientEffects local script that calls off of a remote event, which is ClientEffects. And then we cached all of the modules called ClientEffects in here, and we called them whenever the remote event was fired. So once again, noting the usefulness for this, we don't need to have over 1,000 line scripts in here by just duplicating this and this over again. We just have a single function or a single line calling the function, and which corresponds to these. So yeah, that's pretty much gonna be the end of the episode. The next episode is gonna be on, I believe, movements. It's either gonna be on a movement system, which is sprinting and dashing, or adding different weapons like the katana, a sword, a dagger, and things like that. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed it.